everyone, this is Mike and welcome back to the Chassis Tag channel. So this is going to be part two of a two-parter that I'm doing on creating a GEA endpoint or just enough administration. So as I mentioned in the previous video, we create a GEA endpoint when we want to make some target that we could use PowerShell remoting to connect to, but we want to restrict what commandlets, functions, stuff like that can run in it. And we could use a way to have those commandlets run as an admin identity when the user connecting in does not. So basically, you can kind of like lock down some admin task to only be done through a particular endpoint on a particular computer, and then have a group that's allowed to connect to that. So in my previous video, I created a unlock group that when they connected to a specific endpoint on my domain controller, they were going to be able to unlock Active Directory accounts without having any Active Directory rights whatsoever. So it's a very specific scenario that we're using here. All right. So in this part, we're going to put together a script that's going to be graphical based. So it's going to have a GUI around it that's going to be used to access that endpoint. Because typically, if you're creating these endpoints, they're for users or admin folk who don't really have a lot of, let's say, admin experience, right? So I could create the endpoint, but if I don't write a script to then access that endpoint, the person using it would have to be PowerShell literate in order to be able to use it. Connect to the endpoint, run the commandlets, things like that. So by putting a script together that uses the endpoint, you're kind of taking the need for the user to be PowerShell experienced kind of out of the equation, right? So with that, let's get into this. And so before I jump into this, I do just want to throw out there, if you do like the content, please consider liking and subscribing. The subscriptions really help for the growth of my channel. So when you're first starting out, YouTube wants you to have a lot of subscribers, not really likes and stuff like that, but subscribers are the most important. So if you appreciate the content, want to see me put out more of it, please consider subscribing to the channel. It'll greatly help me out. And again, it does not cost you any money whatsoever. So please do. All right, so with that, let me change over to my client here. So this is my Windows 10 client. And on here, let's see, I've got an ISE open, I've got Visual Studio. So let's first of all just open up a PowerShell session here. And as you remember from the last video, when we created the endpoint, I was able to access it by doing, first of all, let's do who am I? So I'm logged in as my Jeff Kent user again from here. And if I go and access the endpoint, so we're going to do enter PS session, computer, the endpoint I created on DC1, and the name of the endpoint was unlock. Had to remember the name of it. All right, so I could go in, get into that, and I had created, let's see, what was the function I created? Get locked users, right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that function. And that should produce a list of users that have been locked out. Okay, so since the last video, I went to my domain controller, I configured a lockout policy in a GPO, in the default domain GPO, to 3 bad attempts, and locked a few users out here just by doing 3 bad logins. In fact, if you actually wanted to see, I might make a video about this later on here. I just created this simple script here to lock a user out. Okay, so if I run this, supply the username that I want to lock, it creates a credential object with a fake password in it. I apologize if that's anybody's real password in their real life. Creates a credential object out of it, and then I run this command using that credential to connect to DC1. I don't really care about the script block. It's just doing something there. And this will run 3 times with a bad credential, so that would lock the user out. All right. So I could go to a VM and just try to do, 3 logins from a login prompt, but this is just sometimes faster just to, knock them out real quick. All right. So that gets me these locked accounts. So you can see the endpoint is working, in that way. So it is producing the locked users. All right. So let's go ahead. Let me get out of that. Exit PF session. And so first things first, if we're making a graphical script, we need to create the GUI elements of it. Okay. So in order to do that, I use Visual Studio Community Edition. Okay, so there are some other add-ons you can get for like Visual Studio Code and stuff like that, but none of them are free. Okay, so again, I try to pattern everything I do around here around free tools. Because I kind of feel bad when I'm, telling people, hey, you could do this tool, you could use that, it's really cool. Oh, and it's only $10, it's only $50, it's only $100. So in a lot of cases with IT budgets, it might be only $10, but getting the approval to spend the $10 might be a big pain in the neck. So with Community Edition, it's free, right? For personal use, whatever. So let's crank that up. And again, I am doing this as Jeff Kent here logged into my client 2 VM. Right? So just kind of, you don't need to be an admin to put this script together. Visual Studio will run perfectly fine with just regular user. So let's go create a project. I am going to search for forms, and we're going to find this Windows Forms app .NET framework right here using C# Windows Desktop. All right, so I'm going to select that. Next. We need to give this a name here. So Windows Form App 1. How about unlock? Unlock form, something like that. Okay, the location. Let's put this thing in my demo folder. Unlock form. We'll create. And if everything lines up, we have a nifty looking form right here. Okay. And it does default to calling itself form 1. Okay. So that's the overall form there. So if you look here, you could see the text right here. All right, so you can see the text right there. That's like the name of it. So basically, like if you notice here, if I move the cursor off and just click in white space and then come back in, I have the form highlighted. And the way I have my Visual Studio set up here, I have basically the properties on the right. Okay, so by default, the property window is smaller, and then you have Solution Explorer kind of shown at the top here. So what I typically do is I don't really use Solution Explorer much for this. So what I do with it is I'll take this icon here to auto hide it, and then that'll put it as just a button on the right here. So if I want to see Solutions Explorer, I can click that, it opens up. And if I want to collapse it, I can just press it again and it hides it. So then I could go select my form, and then I have the full width of the screen here to see all of the form properties. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is probably with each kind of element that you put in here, you're going to want to give it a name and maybe check the text on it. So the text right here, you can see how it says form 1. So that's found right here. Okay, so again, you might have to scroll down or up in order to get that. But if you look under the this heading here, find text, form 1, and I'm going to rename that. So we'll call it maybe unlock GUI, something like that. Okay, hit enter, and now notice it now changed the name right there. So I might also want to see if this thing has a name to it. Like notice right here under the design section, name, and it's called form 1. Maybe I just want to call this unlock form, something like that. Right? So that way it's not like form 1. Right? So that puts that in there. So now we're going to start dragging elements in here. Okay, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. So it's basically like if you know how to make a GUI, you could design your GUI however you like. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to need is a label and a combo box. Okay, so let's go find a label here. So on the left side, if you don't see your toolbox, this is where you see all of the different controls available with the Windows Forms library. So most of the stuff we're looking for would be under common controls. Okay, and we could see here that there's a label. So I'm going to go drag that up in here. And I'm going to need a combo box. Okay, so there's combo box right there. Okay, so those would be my first two elements. So the label, I'm going to highlight that. And by default, the names of the objects that are created, you could see under the design section, see how it's called label 1. Okay? And, maybe you want that named like that. For labels, I'm actually perfectly fine with that. I'm fine with that default name because I'm not going to have to access it in my script. Okay? It's not going to have a data element that I'm going to pull data out of, or I'm going to put data into during my script. So the names of the labels I could really care less about. Right? However, the text, I don't want it to say label 1. So we're going to want that text to maybe say select user to unlock. Okay, maybe something like that. And then I'm going to want the font bigger. So let's expand the font section. 8.5. Let's try a 12 font. So I type in 12. I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard and I see what that is. I can also change the font itself. So it's doing the sans serif font. If you want to change that to something else, I mean, you're obviously more than welcome to. I'll just leave it as that for default though. Just keeps us moving here. So select user to unlock. I'm probably going to want to put that maybe up in the corner there. And then we got the combo box. And the combo box, I'm going to align just by holding down the mouse button, left mouse button, and dragging. And see how it kind of auto aligns to the beginning or the end here, which is nice. We could adjust the size of it like so. And so with that selected, we're going to do some stuff in here. Okay, so the first thing with that combo box, I don't want it to be called combo box. So how about this would be locked users. Right? That's going to be the name of it. Okay, and that's what we'll reference it in the script later on. Second thing, I'm going to want the font the font size to match. Because ultimately what I'm going to populate in there is the list of locked users. So under the font, let's go change that again to a 12 font. And there we go. All right. So that's going to be the first section. Maybe I'll neck that up a little closer. All right. So we have that part. So now the next piece, typically when you unlock a user, you could just select unlock and call it a day, right? You could do that. However, usually when you unlock them, it's because they don't know their password. So if you unlock them in Active Directory and go, yep, you're all set, they'll promptly relock themselves because, again, they don't know what their password is. So in my endpoint, I added support to also be able to reset their password as well. So you're not just unlocking them, but you're resetting their password. So I might want to put some stuff in there for that. Okay, so the first thing here, because this could be an either or, right? Um, so I might want to throw a checkbox in here. Let's maybe line it up. Throw a checkbox in here, and we'll call this um, you want to leave it as checkbox 1, that's fine. First, I'm going to take the font and up it to a 12 font. And then we need to adjust the text of it. So I don't want it to be called the text to be checkbox 1. How about check here to reset password? Okay, so something like that. And the name of it. So go down to the design section, then the name. How about we call it reset checkbox? Or how about reset CB for checkbox? All right, that keeps the names nice and short. Then I'm going to need another label. So we'll throw a label in here. How about like right there? The label, again, I don't care about the name. Label 2 is fine. We are going to take the text and we'll do something like enter new password. I hope I spelled that right. I think I did. Yep. And font. Let's again change this to a 12 font. Okay. Then I'm going to need a text box that we're going to be entering this password in, right? So, and that I'm going to have to look at, right? So I'm probably going to change the name of this. Instead of text box 1, we'll call it password box or something like that. And the font, let's go back up to the font. And again, we'll change that to a 12 font. Right. So something like that. Right? And in fact, take this, maybe put a little closer to that. Right? So we have those elements going here. Okay, now the next thing I need is I need like a button to basically like run it. So when you first launch the script, you would pick the user you want to unlock, if you want to reset their password, what their new password is, and then a button to basically like do it, if you will. So we need a button. So we'll go put a button in here. And maybe, where do I want that button to go? Let's line it up with that. Put it right there. Button 1, I certainly don't want to call this thing button 1. So let's maybe, what should we call it? This is where I always procrastinate. It's like, what should I call this? And realistically, the person writing the script is probably going to be the only person ever to see the names of these things, right? So you could call it, I don't know, the Great Pumpkin, right? So that's probably not a good idea to do, but you could, I guess, is the point I want to make. All right. So how about unlock button? Go with the theme. We're going to want the text to say something more meaningful than button 1. So how about unlock user account, something like that. And then let's make the button bigger. Maybe something like that. The font, again, with the font size, let's do a 12. That looks cool. Let me change the overall size of my form so that it looks a little better. And then last thing is I want a little bit of output here. So I'm going to need another text box. So we're going to go throw a text box in here. And on the text box, this would be, I'm going to call this thing my output. All right. So, because you are going to want to know if it like worked or not, right? And then the other thing I'm going to do here is I want to make this multi-line. So I'm going to change the false to a true on that. And then now I can take this and I could size it out to use up the rest of the screen there. So that would be my output. All right. So in fact, if we let's take and drag these guys up a little bit. Basically, if you highlight one and then hold down Control, select the next, and then the next, you can kind of drag them as a group. So we did that, and maybe I'll throw one more label down in here just because maybe we'll want to put something here. So let's throw a label there. Text output box, something like that. And again, the font, change it back to a 12. And there we go. Oh, the frame of that's kind of getting in the way a little bit. Let's drag it up. There we go. Looking good. Looking good. All right. So that gets don't quite like the layout of this. Let me line these up a little better here. And then that can go to that. Maybe make that a little bigger there. All right, so let's say I'm going to go with this. All right, so that's my layout. So now I need to take this and turn this into into PowerShell, right? So in this computer, I have installed, if I use the get module list available, I have installed this convert form module. So if you have not seen, it's actually the most popular video on my channel, where I'm creating graphical scripts using free tools, method 1. So that I utilized this freely available convert form module that you can find out on the web. Someone authored it and made it available for free, so I'm totally taking advantage of that. So I do have that installed here. All right, so I'm going to be using a commandlet out of that to basically take this form and turn it into form objects in a PowerShell script. All right, so that's what I am going to want to do here. Okay, so in order to do that, first of all, I need to kind of save the design here. So I just did a Control S to save. And I could go to Solutions Explorer, and the file you're going to want is like this file right here. Okay, so I do want to make sure that that gets saved as well. So I'll kind of highlight that and Control S to save that. Just to again make sure that that's saved. So form1.designer.cs. Okay. So now that that's done, I can come into the PowerShell side here, and we're going to first of all, let me get up File Explorer. I'm in my C:\demo folder, and so unlock form was right here. And then unlock form, and then form designer.cs. Okay, so that's basically what I'm looking for. So I'm going to actually take this, take that file path here. Let's see here. So notice if I take form1.designer.cs, right click and see this copy full path. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into PowerShell here and I'm going to put that in a variable. So that'll be my source. Copy that in there. All right. And then we're going to need demo. C:\demo is fine for the destination. So I'll use the convert form commandlet that comes with that module. And the path, that would be my source. The destination, I'm fine with the local directory. All right, so that's the dot there. The encoding I'm going to use is ASCII, and I'm going to tell it to force. So I go ahead and run that. And if I go look here, I should see in my demo folder this form1.ps1. Okay. So that's our beginning point here. Now I can rename this if I like. So I might call it, unlock GUI, something like that. So I could give it my own name. And now let's open that in the ISE here, or VS Code if you had that as well. Um, so what the heck did I call this? Unlock GUI right there. So we can open it up. Right? Now in here, I don't necessarily like all the changes it does. I mean, don't get me wrong, it hits the highlights here, right? It creates all of the elements as objects here. So, it's making a label, combo box, checkbox, text box, button, text box, label, label. So it's making all of these elements, storing them in variables so I could then use them, and setting a bunch of information about them, right? So font, location, name, size, text. So, you could see the different elements here, okay? And it's using the name that I used when I was making it. So it does a lot of cool stuff here, right? Now, there's some fluff here that I normally like to get rid of. Again, I mean, it's a free tool, right? So I can't really complain like, oh, it adds this extra stuff in. So typically when I'm using this convert form module, I typically wipe out this beginning part here. Okay, so this all the way up to like line 22, right? So I wipe out this initial function here, this get directory and all the comment stuff up top. So I just highlight all of that and delete it. It's like it never was there, right? And then down at the bottom, there's again some extra fluff in here as well. So you don't need this function. So I'm going to, actually, to tell you the truth, I am going to take all of that. I'm going to leave the unlock form.show dialog, okay? Because you need that to like show the form. So I'm going to delete everything but that, like so. And then I'm going to wipe out these last two lines here. Okay? So I just have unlock form.show dialog. Right? And let's save this. And we could go ahead and try running that now. So that was called again unlock GUI.ps1. So run that over here, unlock GUI.ps1, and notice the form displays. Okay, so you can see it right here. I don't have anything populated in it yet, but there it is. All right, and then we could X to close it out, and away we go. Now, what I don't like is when you close it, you get this cancel that shows up on the console. So if you want to make that stop, you can take the output there and send it to out null, like so. All right, so that will stop that from happening. So again, if I run it and then close it, notice I don't get that cancel. Right? So now we need to start putting elements in here. Right? So all of this stuff, right? This is all creating the form. And so basically what I do is somewhere between that. So here's all of the form stuff. I normally put in like two different sections. So I have a section for stuff I'm going to do before the button is pressed, right? So stuff to do when the script is launched. Okay, so in fact, you might even make a comment out of that. Stuff to do when script is run, right? And then I'm also going to have a section here, stuff to do when button is clicked. Right? So those two sections will have code in them. Right? So let's first of all do the stuff to do when the script is run. Right? So So with that, the stuff to do when we connect in here, first thing we're going to need is we're going to need to connect to that endpoint, right? So let's put that in a variable called $session, and we're going to do a new PS session. Computer name, again, I'm hard coding this because the endpoint exists on that specific computer, right? And the configuration name I want to connect to would be unlock. So that now gets that into this variable. Okay, then the next thing is we're going to use invoke command. The session I'm going to be connecting to is $session, and the script block I want to run in there is we're going to um, run that get locked users function. Okay, so that gets me the list of users that have been locked out. Okay, and I'm going to take the result of that and save that in a local variable. Okay, so again, I'm running this, and this is going to get me the list of users that have been locked out. Okay, so that's that function that I created in the endpoint, right? So get locked users. So that's going to store that into a variable called $users locally. And then we want to take the result of that and put it into the combo box. Okay, so that'll get me that information. So, so we're going to take $users, and we need to work that combo box, right? So the combo box is called locked users. Right, so that's that type of object. Again, if you forget, you could come up here, note locked users and combo box. Right, so let's go grab that. Just copy that so I remember what it is. Okay, and here. So now, oops, what did we just do? Totally just messed something up. Hold on, let me Control Z that. There we go. All right. So let's go down here, and in $users, we're going to use for each object, because we need to call a method from that combo box object. So we're going to do a process block, and locked users dot add text is going to be the name of the method that we're going to want here. So we're going to do add text, and then the argument. So what's the text we want to add? Whatever the object is coming in from the pipeline. So basically, again, you got a pipe right here. You have a bunch of users coming in from here. And so each one of those would be in the $_ variable. So we'll go ahead and add that in. All right. So let's do a Control S to save that. And we should be able to test just that piece out. Okay, so let's try running the script. All right, and hit the drop down, and nothing. All right, so that means I messed up on something. All right, I messed up. It won't be the first time. Let's see here. Let's see. Method invocation failed. Combo box does not contain a method called add text. Okay, so that's something that I messed up here. So what would that method be then? I thought it was add text, but it might be something else. Let's see. Margin preferred. No, that's if I want. Is it just text? locked users.text and $_. So let's go ahead and try that. All right. Let's see. No, that's not it either. All right. So we got to figure out what the method is on that. All right. So let's say first here, we want to go ahead and put something in there. So again, what type of object was I working with? So I'm going to go up, find locked users. It is this kind of object, right? So now I'm going to put that on my clipboard here, and I'm going to change over to my domain controller because that's the one that has internet access for me. I apologize I have to do this, but and I'm going to look for that type of object here in the Microsoft documentation. So combo box class in the forms forms namespace here, and let's see. So basically, we could go in and look. We've got the properties, but we definitely want the methods here. And what I'm looking for is I'm seeing if there's something that jumps out to me to add something into that combo box, because I'm literally drawing a blank. I thought it was add text, but I might be thinking of a different .NET element. So my apologies on that. So let's go and nothing's really jumping out at me here. Just going through, man, there is a lot of methods here. Select, send. So let's see. Okay, so looks like there's no easy method here. So I must be misremembering this. I thought there was a direct method here. So let me go back up to properties. And let's see. So the other way that I was remembering here was there is an items property, and let's see that. Okay, so I might be able to use that. So let's see. Let me change back to my client 2 here, and that didn't work. So let's do locked items, locked users dot items dot, and yeah, there is an add method on that. Okay, cool. So let's do that. Yeah, that was a nice little journey there. All right. So it's not directly on the object itself. It's a method on the item's property. So whatever that object is. Okay. So let's save this and let's give this another shot. Hit the drop down and there are my users. All right, perfect. So that's what we were after. So we could pick from the drop down of the locked users. All right, cool. So that gets that piece done. Oop, and it looks like that's creating a bit of output. So we probably want to have that not do that output. So maybe we'll take the result of that and we'll do like an out null, something like that. Right? And that should clean that bit of output up. So let's go give that a shot. Pick a user, close the script. Okay, and none of that 0, 1, 2 output. Okay, so that's cool. So we got that going. All right, now, let's see. So what do we want to do next? So next, we're obviously going to want to unlock them, right? So that would be stuff to do when the button is clicked, right? Okay, so that would be if somebody clicks that, what the heck did I call that button? Unlock button? I don't, yeah, unlock button. So what to do when that button is clicked. So typically when you're working with the buttons, so that was again the unlock button. The unlock button has a method on it um, that we're going to want to use. So there's the properties. Right. So the ISC is not picking that up for me. Thought they would. Um, so we're going to want to go ahead and add button one. Oh, trying to remember what the method name is called. I think it's add click, if I remember right. Add click, and then we're going to throw kind of a script block at it. I'm sorry, not a script block. We're ultimately going to do a script block, but add click is a method. So there's the arguments, and then inside that we got a script block, and then I'm just going to create a function that's going to run when the button is clicked. Okay, so and we'll call that function maybe AD unlock, just or I don't know, maybe we'll call it unlock button. So that'll be the name of the function, right? So that's what's going to happen when the button is clicked. So we're going to add a click event onto the button that's going to execute that code. All right. Um, so that's what we are going to go with here. All right. So now we got to define the function. All right. So the function we're going to put right here. And so we're going to make a function called unlock button. And then the text of that will be in here. All right. So the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need to know the account that we're going to want to unlock. So we're going to grab that as a variable, and we're going to look at that locked users, and we're going to want the selected, I think it's selected item. Yep, selected item, and we're going to want to make sure that is a string. Okay, so that gets me the account that we're going to want to unlock. And then we're going to go and do an invoke command session here to unlock that account. So let's grab all of this, put that in, and then the script block. So this is going to be sent to that endpoint. We're going to use unlock AD account, and then the identity, I'm going to use the $using variable, and then the variable name I want to send over. So if you remember with $using, this variable here is running locally wherever the script is being run. So this is being run on client 2. So client 2 knows what this variable is, but this code here is running on that endpoint. So it's running on DC1. So the PowerShell session on DC1 is not going to know what this variable is. So in order to do that, you can use the $using variable colon and then the name of the local variable you want to send over without the $sign. Okay, so just the name of the variable itself. So that should get the user unlocked. Right? If this is functioning appropriately. And then we should probably put in here like a remove PS session. So let's do something like $session pipe remove PS session. Okay, so we'll do something like that. So that should give me something going on with that button here. And again, we're gonna fine tune it a bit as we go. We're just looking to again do pieces at a time here. So let me save this, and let's go ahead and try running the script again. Okay, so let's pick a user. Maybe I'll pick user 2, and we'll click unlock. All right, now I didn't see any errors pop up here, so let's close this. I'm going to rerun it again, and nope, user 2 does not show up in the list now, so it did unlock user 2. Cool. All right, so that gets that piece in place. All right, now probably I would want to put some output with this. All right, so maybe something like I would want to do something like if it worked or not. Okay, that would be kind of like the element here, right? So if it worked or not, I can probably do something around like a try catch construct. So for instance here, in try catch, this represents some scripting construct, kind of like an if else, where if it does something, do this, if it's something else, do that. Except with try catch, it's basically looking at um, whether something errors or not. Okay, so basically like with try catch, how it looks here is you start off with a try block, and then you have a bunch of code in it. Close it, then you have a catch block, and then some code in it. And you could also have so let's just leave it at that, right? So you have try catch. So basically, if any of the code in the try produces a terminating error, so something that causes PowerShell to halt, the code in the catch would execute. Right? So if the code in the try all runs fine, the code in the catch does not run. Right? So it does not execute. All right, so using that, let's maybe put something in here, like let's do, how about dollar message equals, and then we'll say unlocked dollar account. And I'm probably going to put another line of text on here. So I'm going to take this line and I'm going to do a backtick R for carriage return and backtick N for new line. Because I think I'm going to add something onto this after the fact, just kind of thinking it out. So then we're going to take and let's see here. Let's do, so remove the session, that's fine. And then dollar output dot text equals dollar message. Okay, so that'll put that output stuff there for me to see. Okay, so let's go ahead, save that, and we'll try running the script again. Let's unlock somebody else now. Let's do user 1, unlock, and successfully unlocked user 1. Oh man, I should make the font on that bigger. So again, I could fix that. Okay, but again, it worked. So we're working our way here. Okay, so now if that throws an error, I probably want to put something else there. So in the catch, let's do dollar output dot text equals something like that, right? So in this way, if any of this code produces an error, this is what goes to the output box. Right? So that way you got an error. Right? So that's cool. So let's see. Now, the one thing I'm seeing here, this should not be um, into that function, if you will. So what I probably want is I probably want that in another section of try catch called finally. And what finally does is it's code that always runs. So in the try, if that code throws an error, the catch would execute. If this does not throw an error, the catch does not run, but the finally section always does. Right? So even if there's an error, I still want to close the session. So if I left it here, the session would only get closed if there were no errors. If there was an error, it would leave the session open to eventually time itself out. But if you can avoid that, you might as well. So there we go. So let's leave that in this finally section here. Okay. So now the last thing we probably want to do is we need to reset the password. Okay, so that would be, so we don't want to do output text yet. So let's do kind of an if construct for that because we're hinging on a checkbox. So if, let's see, dollar reset checkbox, reset CB dot, and there is a property if it's checked or not. I think it's just called checked. Yeah. So if $CB dot checked. So if that's set, this is going to output to true. Okay. So that would then run this script block that I'm about to make here. All right. So what we're going to do in this case is we're going to use another invoke command with a script block. Right, and this script block is going to be a bit in size here because we're going to need to do a few things in it. So in fact, I'm going to take that script block and just kind of run it over multiple lines here. So let's do, so first we're going to set AD account password, set AD account password, and identity dollar using :ACCT, and we're doing a reset. Let's see, we're going to need a new password, and the new password we're going to have to do, in fact, we're going to put that down on its own line. So let's do a backtick, and then new password. And we're going to do the result of doing convert to secure string as plain text force, and the string would be coming from $using colon, and then I need a variable for that. How about we just call it $pass? Oop, no dollar sign. Okay, and then before I send that invoke command over, let's do $pass equals what the heck was my checkbox? Not my checkbox, my text box, password box. That's where the password is. So I need to read that out of there and just store that in a simple variable. Password box dot text. All right, there we go. All right, so that will reset the password using whatever was entered in the password box. So I'll throw that into this variable, and then that gets thrown into the remoting session. So again, this code is all running in that remoting session on that endpoint on DC1. So hence why I need the $using. All right. And we have to set the account now So we're going to do a set AD user. The, again, identity, $using, :ACCT, and change password at logon. We're going to set that to true. So that way the user has to reset their password when they log in. All right. So that should do that. And now we're probably going to want to locally, this is again still in this if construct, right? So we're still in this if construct. We're going to take $message and we would add to it password for account $ACCT. And again, remember, when you're in double quotes, variable names will enumerate to the actual value, if it's a string. All right? So that'll add that in, and then we'll take that whole thing, put that in the output box, and I think that's it. All right? I think that's it. All right? So let's go ahead, save this, and we'll come back, try running this. Okay, select the user. I just have John Smith left. So we'll do John Smith. We'll say reset the password. Let's reset it to pumpkin1. Coming up on Thanksgiving here, so let's do that. Let's do an unlock and successfully unlock J Smith. Successfully reset password to account J Smith. All right, cool. So it looks like that worked. Nothing errored. So that's good. So we'll close that out. Okay, one thing though, let's see. So that was output. Size, multi-line. Okay, how about the other text box? Oh, there we go, the font. So font size of 12. Let's see, can I do that on my output box? No, of course not. Couldn't be that easy. All right, hold on a sec here. Hold on a sec. So password box was also a text box, right? So let's go find that. Okay. So let me kind of steal this part right here. I'm just going to steal that whole thing. Would have been easier if I remembered to do this in Studio, but I didn't. So output box. Output dot font. Was it was all of that? Yeah, okay, there we go. So let's do that. See if it likes that. I know this totally crude. I apologize. Let's see. So, oh no, I don't have anybody to unlock. Darn it. So let's lock somebody. Lock user, user to unlock, user1. All right. And now let's try unlocking user1. Unlock, there we go. So that fixed the font. All right, should have remembered that when I was doing the form, but hey, it happens. All right, so that gets that going. All right. Now, probably the last piece of polish here. And again, I do apologize. I'm getting, pretty long on the video here. The last piece of polish that you probably might want to do. Notice in here if I type get module list available, you'll notice on this computer I also have this PS2exe module here. And what that is used for is if you wanted to take a script and compile it as an executable, you could use this, right? So depending on what you might want, I might want to take my script now, and instead of having a person have to run this through PowerShell, I might want to make it a little easier, for them to execute here. Okay, so let's get rid of the Visual Studio thing in the background. We don't need that. Let's see. So what did I just do? What did I just do? Oop, I apologize. I just closed my connection here. Let me reconnect. Too many windows. All right, hold on one sec. Okay, apologize for that. Okay, so let's close Visual Studio here. I don't need that. And so what I might want to do with this PS2exe module, which you can get off of PowerShell Gallery. So if you do on a computer with internet, if you do find module PS2exe, you will see that in Microsoft's PowerShell Gallery. You could also get it from GitHub and stuff like that. So what I can do with this now is I could utilize this by calling the commandlet invoke ps2exe. The input file would be my local script. So that was, what the heck are we calling that? Unlock GUI.ps1. The output, let's maybe call it the same thing, unlock GUI.exe, and then we'll say no console, and run that. So now if I look in Explorer here, I've got this executable that I could just double click to run. And it kind of opened in the background on me, but there it is right there, right? So you could easily take that, drop that onto, let's take a copy of it, drop it onto somebody's desktop. And now that, kind of represents like, hey, I'm, this admin, Jeff Kent, they want to launch this, they could just double click, um, do what they need to do, and away they go. All right, so in fact, let me just go ahead and lock somebody again. We'll lock user one again. Okay, so Jeff Kent gets a phone call. Hey, I'm user one. I just got locked out. Okay, let me crank this up. Yup, I see you. Do you want me to reset your password? We could, do that. At the same time, unlock. And away we go. That was interesting. Okay, so I need to fix something there. It did actually work. All right, so So yeah, so that'll take a little bit of troubleshooting to get our way through here, um, but anyway, so if you want to start poking around at that, that's the converting it to an executable. Again, you don't have to do that, but it is something we could do. All right, so I don't want to get into too much of the troubleshooting on this to start off here because I'm already way long on this video here. So I will just call it with that. If I, yeah, if anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to post a comment, um, and we can take it from there. Again, if you did like the video, consider throwing me a like, and definitely I am after subscribers here. So if you could do that, that'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, just wanted to pop back in on the end of this video here. It was kind of bugging me where I left it. And so turns out there's two error messages that are happening here when I convert to an executable. It really has nothing to do with the executable. So the first one here is password never expires. On my accounts, user one and user two, I have them set for the password never expires. So if you try to force them to reset their password, that doesn't work. So that's an Active Directory thing, nothing to do with our script or the GUI part of it or the executable part of it. So that's what was producing this error message right here. And then the other one is if you, without closing the script. So remember, when I click the button here, that is running this code, this function, and in that function, it's removing the session. So there's no longer a session there, and the session was made before the button was clicked. So if you try to do this again by clicking this button, you'll get a different error message saying it can't run the command because the session state is closed. Okay, so remember, each time you launch this, it's each time you click the button, I guess I should say, you get one shot at it. So the way that this is designed, right? So those were not really error messages, just usage with the script, if you will. So anyway, so just wanted to troubleshoot those and get back to you guys. So I figured I'd tack that on to the end of the video here. So again, if you enjoyed the video, give me a like, and we'll see you on the next one. So have a good one, everybody.